Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Wednesday, the 12th of June. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm delighted to say we're joined for the first time this week by Stevie Clifford. How's it going, Stevie?
Yeah, good morning, mate. Good morning, everyone. I am good. A little bit hay fevery, but I'm feeling all right, and it's good to be back on. I'm on. It's basically me on for the next week or so, isn't it? While everybody goes away. So, sorry, folks, you're going to be stuck with me. So, let's have some fun with it.
Yep, it's our good selves back on Friday, and then next week I'm off for a few days, so it's Chris and Stevie at the helm. So I'll try and tune in from Germany, but I'm sure it will go swimmingly, Stevie. So no problem at all. You're a thorough professional, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just a quick word before we batter into the Rangers news quick word for the podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. They've got that open day opening up this coming weekend. They're opening a showroom in Dunfermline, and they've got that VIP Vegas themed weekend on the go. If you want to head along, folks, some great prizes on offer there, then please RSVP at the link in the description. Right, where shall we start? Lots of transfer news, rumours doing the rounds, Stevie. In the title, I've bunged in 3 players that we are expecting at Rangers. Deals are moving in the right direction with regards to Yusuf Kabadayi, Damian Garcia, and also Albion Rrahmani. 3 players. Kabadayi is a winger. From Bayern Munich, of course, just 20 years of age. Damian Garcia is one that really excites me. He plays for Penarol. He's a 20-year-old Uruguayan midfielder, a number 6, if you like. And he is one that is very highly rated over in Uruguay. Albion Rrahmani, don't know too much about him, but he did well for Rapid Bucharest last season in the forward line. The reports obviously suggesting Rangers tabling a substantial offer in the region of €6 million for his services, and the rumour mill went into overdrive yesterday when he started liking Glasgow cafes, Stevie.
Yeah, listen, it's the rumours in the last 24 hours have been quite exciting. Even this morning, I was getting WhatsApps with more rumours. So, I'm really, really excited about the last few days. Obviously, I've not been on since we've signed Clinton Nsiala as well.
Yep.
So that came not out of the blue because we were kind of expecting it a wee bit, weren't we? But never knew that it was coming as quickly as it did. I think that's fair. And I kind of like that, Derek. It'd be nice to talk a wee bit about that as well. Just but on the rumour mill on Kabadayi, Garcia, Rrahmani, I can't sit here and claim to know. I'd be an avid fan of anyone that we've signed. I think it would be disingenuous to do that. I think they've all got profiles that we're looking forward to and things like that. I think that Garcia is the one for me. I'm not sure why, but he's the one for me I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
And I think it might just be because he's a proper number 6, Derek, and I've been speaking about that with you. We've both been discussing it now for several months about our need for a proper number 6.
Yep.
And Penarol, he certainly comes with a place of
a decent side.
We can but they've got a reputation for churning out some decent youngsters as well. So for the Uruguayan side, so it's interesting. It's certainly an interesting one. Rrahmani as well scored loads of goals, hasn't he? He's got 19 and 30 this season. I think he's got 5 assists. So I think that's encouraging, and I think that's where you're going to get the excitement. I can't see many being excited about Hefty arriving or Nsiala. It's the strikers, isn't it? It's the midfielders. It's the ones that are really going to affect your team that people are going to be gravitating towards and excited about. So these are the ones I'm excited about as well. And I think that all of a sudden, over the last kind of 48 hours, the rumours have been kind of exciting, and we're looking forward to that. And there's a lot of trust needs to go into the management and Niels Koppen and the team for that. And I think that the difference between this time last year is that these guys have got actual experience, and Koppen's got a track record with PSV and things of bringing in these type of players. So
yeah,
it's one that we're putting trust in, Derek, but I think it's one that we're entitled to be enthusiastic about. And yes, it's a wee bit blind, but these guys of profiles and things like that are at least exciting for us. And this is the market we're in now, Derek. I think we can't go out and spend £8 million on a proven, ready-made guy So we have to get young boys that we're going to nurture and turn into like hungry professionals that we can then flip and sell on. So it's a really interesting concept. I think we'll need to get that balance right, and a few experienced players coming in might also be in order, but it's going to be a really interesting window to see how it goes.
Yep. Dado Puzzles Blue Boots gets in touch. He says Garcia, great stamina. David Batty player. What a player he was, David Batty. So, if he's anywhere as near as good as what he was, then the Rangers have won a watch. There's a question that came in because of the ages. I mean, those three boys we just mentioned there, Stevie. Kabadayi is 20, Garcia is 20, Rrahmani is 23. Colin Cooper with a point. Sort of we touched on this with Chris yesterday. He says, are these boys starters, Stevie? Or do we need older heads in? I do think Rangers still need some experience brought in over the course of the summer. If you look at it, the players that have departed already, Ryan Jack is headed out the door, John Lundstrom, Bona Barisic, to a lesser extent, John McLaughlin, Kamar Ruth. Those are all experienced players, Stevie. Is there an argument to be made that the old Alan Hansen comment, you can't win anything with kids? Is it important to have a sort of spattering of experience around there?
I'm going to give you a long-winded answer, Derek. This might surprise everybody watching, but what I would say, and looking at it from outside, looking in, that somebody like Clinton Nsiala, who's not played for Milan yet, who's not got like first-team experience, I would guess, and all it is a guess, is that he's not coming as a first-team starter. I would guess he's coming as somebody that wants to push the left-sided centre-back that I think, most likely, given the names that we're getting linked with, will probably go and bring in. So I think that's fair. Personally, from my point of view, Derek, and we spoke about this a lot, I would rather have somebody like Clinton Nsiala, who's a young, promising player, who's maybe not ready yet as such, but pushing the first-team player, than having a backup, average, professional player that is getting towards the kind of late 20s, earning a lot of money and not doing very much for his place in the team. That's what I would rather have. I would rather have a young guy pushing to get into the first team than have somebody that's maybe set and settled. So that's where I see Nsiala. So do I see him as a starter? I'm not sure I do. But if we were to bring in Kabadayi, again, I'm not sure I see him as a starter, but he would push and maybe play with Cortez on the left-hand side if we expect Cortez to be a starter out there. I'm not sure if he's going to play left or right. Maybe he'll swap about a bit. But I would expect him to get plenty of game time, but maybe not a nailed-on starter, depending on how he does. But I think if you're spending money on Garcia, and you're certainly spending money on Rrahmani, and you would probably, what we're thinking, $1.5 million on Garcia, and maybe in the region of 4 or 5 million for Rrahmani. I think if we're spending that, these boys are starters. I think that's a nailed-on kind of easy assumption, Derek, I think would be the case there. And I think that's fair. Do we need older heads in? There's a difference between, I think, an older head and an actual leader in the dressing room. And you can get a leader in the dressing room that's 25, 26 years old. You've just got to find them, and they're very difficult. And there was a really interesting little clip I seen of Jose Mourinho talking the other day about Porto being 2-0 down. And he went into his dressing room and he was asked by the senior player to leave while they sorted it out themselves, because they were leaders themselves, and they came back and they won that game 3-2. And I think it was against Belenenses, the Portuguese side, that maybe I butchered the pronunciation of the team, but he was talking about that. And I think that's what we need. It's not necessarily older, experienced players, because it doesn't mean you need to go and buy a 34-year-old. You need to buy guys that can actually lead the team and show their experience and be able to influence situations that we might find ourselves in. Because let's be honest, Derek, we find ourselves in a lot of tricky positions in this league. You know, you're 1-0 down at half-time and you have to dig deep against a team that's 10 at the back and stuff like that. And we've not been able to do that in recent times. You know, and that's maybe cost us. So I would think that there's a difference between buying an older legs just for the sake of it than buying a proper leader and experience. So it's interesting. I think it's a really good question and it's a really good discussion. I don't think you can have a summer where you buy 10, 20-year-olds and we try and mold that together. I think that's really difficult, because then maybe your only senior professional leader you've got there is Jack Butland. John Suter, maybe, is he going to be a starter? We don't know. So there's a lot of question marks around that. And I'm not against losing Jack Lundstrom, etc., which we have done, and maybe a few other senior pros that we're maybe going to lose. I think that that's maybe necessary because of scar tissue and things like that. But I would be against having such a young dressing room without that splattering of those experienced players coming in around them as well. So getting the balance right, I don't think you need to bring in 5 older guys, but maybe 2 or 3 guys that can still make an impact. I think getting that balance right is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. Just want to mention that Alan Hansen there as well. I do wish him all the very best. He's in hospital at this moment in time. Yeah, great player, great pundit, and absolutely great guy as well. So, the heart goes out to Alan, and hopefully he makes a full recovery there. So, another bit of news, transfer news you may have seen, and this is something that got brought up last week. Those of you that are members on the Rangers Review Extra channel, when I was on with Adam for the Q&A show, somebody asked the question, what about Tommy Conway? He's recently been promoted from the under-21 side to the Scotland senior setup, and you'd have seen links, both Rangers and Celtic believed to be keen on the Bristol City forward. Report states that they could be making moves for the 21-year-old if he's looking to run down the final 12 months of his contract at Ashton Gate. I've seen a fee in the region of £300,000 being reported. I haven't seen much of him, I've got to say, Stevie, of Tommy Conway. I think, good to see him getting promoted from the under-21s into the Scotland first team. Whether he appears for the senior side at the Euros remains to be seen. Tommy Conway, are you a fan?
It was interesting, right? See, when you were talking about that, and I was listening to it, and you said £300,000, it immediately perked my interest, because I think if you can get somebody like Tommy Conway for that kind of money, I think that that's a really strategic gamble that I don't think you're losing too much money on. So I think he's a young player that's got promise. He's got good movement, Derek. He can score goals. I'm not sure he's prolific as such yet. I would need to delve more into his stats and things like that. Or, who am I kidding? I need Shona to go and get the stats for me so that I can then report it like I know what I'm talking about.
Going Football Manager?
No. So I think he's fairly decent in that as well. But I think that's interesting. And we've got to, listen, the manager said we need to be clever and we need to maximise our summer revenue and things like that. Now, I think that Conway, if he's valued at around that kind of money, might be one of those punts as such. Is that a fair description?
Yep.
That you give somebody a platform and see how they performed. If you got somebody like Conway, say on a 2-year contract with an option of another year or two, that might be sensible, because you're not losing money. You're going to shift him on for $250,000 down south, aren't you, in a year's time if it doesn't work out? So I think there's a potential there, Derek. If that's the deal, then I'd be interested in that. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on, I would say, certainly from a Rangers point of view. And as the manager said, I think that's a really pertinent point, that we need to be clever, and I think that would be somewhat a clever kind of move. I think that's fair to say. I wouldn't rule it out. It's one of those ones, sometimes you ask me something and I'm shaking my head and I'm all grumpy and all that. This is perking my excitement a wee bit, Derek. This is an interesting one. So it's one come and watch, and one worth watching, I think.
Yeah. If in talking sake he does arrive, Stevie, say Albion Rrahmani arrives as well, are you happy with the forward line in that case, in terms of income?
Well, you would have Rrahmani, Conway, Danilo, wouldn't you, and Dessers? And I think that's 4 strikers that we could get by with. Would Cyril look to be moved on, because there will be plenty of interest in him?
Yeah,
I think that's an interesting one. And they might try and balance the numbers there. I think, look, I like Danilo. I've always liked Danilo. I think there's something to him. We said that last year. I don't know if it's a romantic thing from me, whereas you want him to be really good and you're kind of Brazilian striker. You want him to be that 9 that you hope he'll be.
Yeah.
Have we really seen it yet? We're not sure. So there's that kind of side of it. I think that's fair. So I want him to do really well. Cyril's done well. He's got 22 goals in the season past, but there's big question marks, isn't there? Because let's face it, he does, like to round the team twice before he shoots a goal, and he's missed a lot of chances. So there's a frustration behind that kind of side of him, but nice big guy, scored some big goals. And you wonder, with a fully functioning team around him, could he get more? Would he be able to, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of question marks there. But the difference between that and this year, Derek, is there's actual 4 strikers there.
Yeah.
So
options.
It's an interesting one. I think it's an interesting one. But, with Danilo, as World's Greatest DJ said there, we have invested a lot of money on him. They got some £5-6 million. He didn't lead that Feyenoord team to be a bad player, Derek. So there is a player there. He missed some chances as well, Danilo.
I know.
So, would he have hit 20, 25 goals? I think he probably would have. So maybe he would have helped Dessers in the run-in as well. And it was interesting that when he was fit, he started before Dessers as well, under Clement. He had a fairly harsh challenge at Tynecastle, which cost him the best part of 6-7 months of his season after a horrendous challenge in Perth that cost him 2 months as well. So I think he's been really unlucky. And I think that he's somebody that can score goals for us. So you add a couple more. Rrahmani's going to be a starter, isn't he? If he's got 20, 25 goals, then you've got Conway chipping in at the back, and I would be quite happy with that. Like, I think that would be all right. And for minimum money, you would maybe, $6 million in for them, and you would have a pool of 3-4 strikers. I don't know. I think I could get on board with that, Derek. I think I could be optimistic about that potentially.
Yeah, the thing is, we can't have another season where you're totally reliant on one guy leading the line, and if he gets injured, then you're screwed. Rangers have found themselves in that situation all too often, unfortunately, in recent years. Let's talk about Clinton Nsiala then. I think it came out the blue the last couple of days. Young lad from AC Milan. He's turned down the chance of a new deal there to move to Rangers, and by all accounts, looks like a real talent. Of course, he hasn't played any senior football yet, so there is question marks over whether he will be able to make that step up. But he's not, as you touched on there, Stevie, he'll be coming to push the defence. No doubt he'll have been promised game time that he wasn't at the San Siro. Is he someone that excites you?
Yeah, he does. And excuse me a minute, because I've made some notes, Derek. I have done some revision in this. So I've made some notes for you. So statistically, he's 1.82 m, so he's round about 6 foot, I believe.
Yeah, he's a big boy, isn't he?
A lot taller than me, so that would be difficult. Left-footed centre-back. He's played 22 games, 8 clean sheets, scored 2 goals for the youth team. 63% defensive duels won, 62% aerial duels won, 87% passing accuracy, which I think he's quite interesting. Say the style of his defending, he's quite calm, refuses to panic on the ball, and he basically is good at leading the kind of the attackers into positions, which is good to defend in. Reads the ball well as that. Passing ability they're talking about as being his biggest kind of positive. 10.37 passes into the final third, which is 4th best in the league as well. But he's only won 53% of loose balls duels, so about 50%, 1 and 2 basically, every time there's a loose ball in the ground, which he needs to work on, needs to be a wee bit stronger in the tackle, and that's one of those things. The passing one's a bit positive for me. So obviously I've taken that. I've went and looked on Twitter, and it's other people's work and stuff like that, which I've kind of looked at to bring you those stats, Derek. So, but it's a vast improvement from the start of the season when I would have said I've no idea. So I've actually went and had a wee look. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Do I think he'll be a starter? I'm not sure he will. But I think there's promise there. I think you can look at it and say everybody wants him to be the new Calvin Bassey. Right? I think that's obvious. But people forget, and maybe the memory slightly kind of forgotten a wee bit with regards to Calvin Bassey, because Calvin Bassey, you remember during the 55 season, he played in that game in Paisley where we got beat 3-2 in the cup, and he started and he had a bit of a torrid night, and he never really featured for a long time in that season afterwards. He didn't really break through until Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came in and moved him to centre back, and then he flourished because of his speed, and he was able to man mark the big games. Obviously Calvin Bassey, the semi-final against Celtic, when he was able to push on and sit right on top of Rogic was a master stroke by Van Bronckhorst. Every time Celtic went forward, he was right on the back of them. And that elevated him, because I remember, I think it was Ajax at the time, talking about that exact game when he got his big move going over there. And obviously his performances in Europe. I remember the Leipzig game where he got back on a one-on-one and the boy had 20 yards on him and he got back and stopped it with his pace and stuff like that. So it took Calvin Bassey a while. I don't see Nsiala coming straight in, Derek. I see him as being somebody that they'll build on, that'll play minutes and will play games here and there. And I think that's realistic. I think there'll be another left-sided defender coming in front of him. And I think based purely on who we've been looking at, if you consider Cordoba, if you consider Gamar, is that right? The Chilean boy?
Galdames, the Chilean. Yeah.
I really would. It'd be great if they could sign some Scottish lads called John during the summer as well to really help me, because it's going to be a nightmare writing blogs.
To be fair, Galdames, his first name's Thomas, so we can call him
Tommy. Right, okay, Tommy, the centre back. That's what we'll call him. Sounds good to me. So, if you look at that kind of left-sided, I think Nsiala will be coming in to back him up. The passing thing's interesting, Derek, because it goes back to a couple of weeks ago. I asked the boys, what is Hefty, Cortez, arrival? What the players that we've been linked with? I asked Joshua and Adam, what is that telling us about what Clement's trying to do? And both of them says that they think that it's going to be quick transition, the ability to beat their men one-on-one, and the ability to pass forward quickly and get Rangers from A to B quicker. Excuse me. How many times have we seen Rangers play and there's 8 passes when 3 or 4 really would have been necessary? And I talk about the goal in Porto quite a lot. I talked about it on the Four Lads podcast the other night, that if you remember it, it went Hollander, Kent, Barisic, cross, Morelos, goal. And it was a really quick forward momentum. Now, we had the ball for a wee bit beforehand, but the actual attacking movement when Rangers were at their peak and playing some decent stuff under Gerrard was really good. And we need to try and get back to that, because a lot of it was very slow and the build-up was very slow last season. And I think that's what he's trying to do. And somebody like Nsiala, who is decent on the ball and has shown some promise, you can see why they brought him in, Derek, because I think he fits the profile of what they're trying to do. 83% passing and stuff like that, and being 4th best in the league for those forward progressive passing is why we've obviously been alerted to him. Now, caveat to that, that's not first team football. That's the level below in the under 20s and stuff like that in Italy. I understand that completely. So you need to caveat that with that, and you need to kind of discuss the fact that it's about promise more than it is actual ability at this moment in time. But I think it's an interesting one, Derek. And as I said to you before, rightly or wrongly, I would rather have a guy in there like that we can develop and push on, that's going to push the first team, instead of having a professional that's sitting there comfortable on 30 grand a week, not really caring if he's playing or not really available when we need him to, and not really good enough. So I think there's too many of that type of player at Ibrox at the moment that we need to try and shift on.
Yeah, just on Galdames, I spoke to someone who covers Godoy Cruz yesterday. You can check out a Q&A on the website, folks. Interestingly, I asked him what position does he play, what is his best position. He says he normally plays as a left back. On some occasions, he's even played as a central defender, but he stands out much more playing as a winger, and on some occasions overflowing the attack on the left side. So I thought that was quite interesting stuff on Thomas Galdames. Prefers to play out on the wing, and it's certainly an area of the pitch that Rangers are looking to bring in a number of players. Cortez is already signed. Kabadayi plays out there on the wing. Galdames is comfortable playing out there on the wing as well. I know Clement wants wingers, Stevie, but do we need about 7 or 8 of them?
Derek, he'll be a centre half and do as he's told and like it. Well, that's interesting. We obviously didn't know that, but he's been heavily linked, isn't he? So yeah, I think there's been a few more linked in the last couple of days. I'm sure I've seen a name linked in the last 24 hours of a centre back as well. Adam actually sent me it, and we were talking about it last night. So that's an interesting one as well. I think these names are just going to keep coming. Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing and the exciting thing. There was, as I said, there was WhatsApp rumours this morning as well. So it's going to be good. It's going to be an interesting few weeks and getting that balance right. And I think we'll move quickly. I've seen some people suggest, Eric, that maybe a few will come in, then we'll stop, try and get a few more out. I don't think it'll be like that. I think we'll front load it and I think you'll see a raft of arrivals in time for the Champions League qualification and time for August. I think you'll see all that happen, and then you'll maybe see a turnaround and putting players out, and the bridge might be gapped until that moment, just because we have to get that squad ready for August. Potentially nine massive games in there that we need to start well in the league, don't we? We need to start well in the cup, and then you've got the Champions League qualifiers. These are all massive, and you throw in the fact that Clement is not starting from a blank canvas because he's inherited last season, and people are burnt, I think, by the way that the season ended and the fact that he's not won that big game yet and things like that. So Clement's got a wee bit of pressure. Unfair or not, we'll soon find out. And he needs to start quickly as well. So he'll be eager to get everybody in, get a good pre-season, especially when he's put such an emphasis, Derek, on the fitness and all that. He'll want all the players in, won't he, so that we can get all that sorted. So I'm expecting the next 3 or 4 weeks, Derek, to be extremely busy. And of course, we do start back in just under 2 weeks. So I think you might see a lot arriving in the next couple of weeks, which is really quite exciting.
Yeah, right. I wanted to get through so many comments coming in. First of all, I wanted to address this. Peggy gets in touch, says some sad news today. Elizabeth, the widow of the late Ronnie McKinnon, died yesterday. Thoughts and prayers with her family and friends. Yeah, absolutely, Peggy. We both echo that, and everyone at the Rangers Review. That is sad news indeed. This question from Ewan says, Derek, Stevie, can you explain the homegrown Scottish quota rules for the coming season? I'll direct you to the Rangers Review website. Chris wrote a great article on there, Ewan, of all the Champions League criteria and what Rangers need to meet. We also did a video on it the Rangers Review Extra channel as well, so it's got it in great detail. So I'd urge you to check it out, the website or on the YouTube channel. Just on Stevie having notes there, Ali Filatelli, Stevie Clifford, the ultimate professional, bringing notes. And there was a comment coming in from someone that said you just phoned Joshua. You just phoned Joshua for the notes. But yeah, what you bought in there?
Yeah, well, we both know that anybody that's seen social media this morning will have seen Joshua and Johnny's picture as they're about to board a flight to Italy. And Johnny looks absolutely giddy, doesn't he? And Joshua looks like he's been held hostage. So I get pictures, we all get selfies with Joshua and all that on match day. And Joshua looks beaming and he's happy and he's delighted, isn't he, Derek? That wasn't a happy, delighted Joshua this morning. So I did not phone Joshua. Shona is my stat person. Anyone that watched the Four Lads pod, which I encourage them to do, Derek, will have seen that. So I done a wee bit of research on him myself, actually, for this one. So look, I think the thing is, see on that, just honestly, the truth is, it would be really, really silly of me to sit here and say, oh, I've seen loads of this boy. I know what he's like. And
no, we haven't.
Absolutely brilliant. We haven't. No, we absolutely haven't. So I need to try and just say to people, look, I'm really honest. I haven't seen anything of this boy, but here's the kind of things that he might be able to bring. Here's the stats, and this is what he might be able to do. So hopefully that kind of explains it a wee bit more.
Yeah. This Oros Great Stevie says, had Bassey played first team football prior to his Rangers move? No, it came through the academy at Leicester. Hadn't played for the first team at the Foxes. John Calder gets in touch. First time I've managed to catch you live. Good morning from Kuwait. So good to have you tuning in, John. Some other points I wanted to address. Potential outgoings. There was a question on the Instagram live where we are. Bella 1872. Any news on Cantwell? Is he staying or going? Well, as a Rangers player at this moment in time, I think he falls into the bracket this summer of a player. If an offer is to come in, I believe the Rangers board will be looking at it. Stevie, I would not be surprised to see him move on in the next weeks and months.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me either, unfortunately, because he's a player that I really, really like. But he's not quite done what we had really hoped. I think that's he's had a season where he's maybe been messed about at the start, question marks saying start to arise over his personality, his ability. He's not really done it in the big games. Social media stuff towards the cup final was just completely inappropriate and not on, Derek, from my point of view. You need to back it up, and if you don't, it just leaves you open to ridicule. Then we all get it, don't we? Because we're all getting those messages, taking the proverbial and everything else. I just think it falls under that, and I've spoken about this before. We need a guy in the 10 who's going to deliver massive numbers for us. like Hadji did, like Arfield did in the 55 season, where they were both pitching in with 40 goal involvements and, both getting 10 to 15 goals, both getting assists and everything else. They didn't do that. Cantwell didn't do that this season, and his numbers aren't good enough for where we really need it to be. So would Rangers entertain a bid? Absolutely. Would they entertain bids for Dowell, Lawrence, Hadji, etc. as well? I think they would. I think you're going to see movement in the 10 position, Derek. Only a guess, purely a guess on my behalf. I think it might be one of those ones where you move these guys out, then we'll go and spend money getting somebody that can really influence. I think we need a proper number 10. Would I be adverse to Cantwell staying? I'm not sure I would be. I don't mind him in the slightest, as I've said, but I want more from him. I want that potential that we all think he has to properly be fulfilled. But I think, like you say, I think he's one of the ones that kind of falls into the bracket of we're not actively putting him out the door, but if money comes in or a decent offer, then I think we'd entertain it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen news as well over the last couple of days from Saudi. It's not going away. Reports from a publication over there that Stephen Gerrard believes that Rangers will be looking to cash in if they receive a reasonable offer for Tavernier and Goldson. Those mummerings won't go away. And just on the defensive side of things, Rangers Nut says Tav, Goldson, Suter and Davis are an absolute fail defensively. We need them moved on. I can see 3 of the 4 moving on this summer, Stevie. Do you?
Yeah, and the one that will survive most likely is John Suter. So yeah. I think Ben Davis, a nice professional, does okay, doesn't he? Never really outstanding, never really awful. It's just, I think the time's come. Paying too much money for him to be sitting not playing. Connor Goldson, so much been said about him. James Tavernier, so much been said about him also. I think that the time's right, Derek. And I get accused an awful lot of having an agenda against James Tavernier and against Connor Goldson. The only agenda I've got is Rangers winning, Derek. And anyone that watched last season, particularly the run-in, the last 3-4 months, it would be extremely naive to say that there aren't huge question marks over both players. And if they've got to the point where maybe they've just ran the race, have their legs going, are they just good enough anymore? I'm not sure. I think you need to be careful because James Tavernier's done a lot for Rangers over the space.
Oh, he's the one I was going to say.
He's the one.
I'm going to be sad to see. I'm going to be sad to see him. I know he's got his critics out there, Stevie, but we're not going to see someone like that at right back probably in my lifetime ever again.
I think
know the defensive side of things, Rangers need a defender, but going forward, that's the modern game. He's unreal.
Derek, it's not even the defensive side of it, right? You always countered that with what James Tavernier brought at the other end of the pitch, right? And you kind of accepted it. But there's question marks for me over whether or not his legs are actually still there. Some of the performances, Tynecastle, the 3-2 game and stuff like that, were just really difficult to watch from James Tavernier. Is it the right time? Is he just completely knackered and he needs 6 weeks off? That's a huge considerment as well. I think the door's still open more in my heart for James Tavernier than it is for Connor Goldson or it is for Ben Davis. I think that they're done. And I think that there's no question marks there. Could you put a better team around James Tavernier? But could James Tavernier still get forward? Is he still capable of getting to the back post? I don't know. There's huge question marks for me in the last 3-4 months. Is it better just to have a completely clean sweep? Derek, manager says that this team's reached the end of their cycle. James Tavernier's 32 on massive money with 2 years left in his contract. If Saudi come in for £3-4 million, does it make sense for us to move it on? Would you put Dujon Sterling in there? Could you get another full-back, full of energy and everything else? I think that's the biggest conundrum and question mark that the manager has to answer this summer. And I'm trying to be fair on James Tavernier. The issue is as well, Derek, is we've seen countless failure after failure.
I know.
Under the same guy. And let's be honest, because that's what people say, and that's how the majority of social media reacts to James Tavernier. I think that there would be a 50-50 split if you were to canvass season ticket holders genuinely on James Tavernier. And I think for your captain in such a prominent role in the team and stuff like that, I don't think that's high enough for him to survive. Me personally, I'm at the stage where I would be shaking his hand and saying, thanks for everything. I think now's the right time. But that's only my own opinion, and it doesn't mean I'm right. I'm certainly not. It's only what I see and how I interpret things. So it's going to be one, you probably get 20 people commenting in a minute saying, and 10 would say, yeah, 10 would say, Stevie, you're talking absolute nonsense. And I can accept that because it's such a divisive opinion. But for me, Derek, the time is right, I think, to move these guys on and bring in new leaders, bring in new faces. And we can't continue to do the same things every season.
I know.
Same players, the same movie, and then be surprised when it repeats itself in March and April. That's what this season, that's what last season, that's what the seasons before happened. They've had some pretty huge moments and done amazing things, but it's not been consistent enough, and it's not been where we really need it to be. So for me, sorry, folks, it is time.
Yeah. This year as well, of course, take Tav out the team. Bonner's left. That's 2 free kick takers taken out if Tav is to go. Good news is, though, Thomas Galdame, as I'm told, can hit free kicks. So there's that sorted.
Yeah, just on that, listen, I don't think set pieces are as massive as everybody makes out. How many did James Tavernier actually convert in a season? And I'm not criticising him. He hits 2 or 3, right? I'm not criticising him. We get so many corners.
It's not that though, Stevie. It's corners for me, and the free kicks, just dangerous free kicks.
This is what I was about to say. Like we need, you can always any professional player, and we're bringing in plenty of wingers, maybe a number 10, a couple of midfielders. They should all be able to take set pieces, Derek. Right? You're going to find somebody in there that can take set pieces. James Tavernier at his absolute height, the 55 season. The free kick at Dundee United and everything else was incredible. I just don't think we've seen that the last couple. And I'm not wanting to sit here and slate James Tavernier and say he's completely done that. So that's not my point in this. My point in being is that from corners, our success rate and all that hasn't been good enough. And I think you can get other players taking set pieces, you know, and maybe try and bring somebody in that can do it. So I'm not concerned about that. You know what I mean? I'm not concerned about that in the slightest. So, and if we're bringing in strikers, I'm pretty sure one of the strikers is going to want penalties and stuff as well. So I'm not really concerned about that side of it, Derek. Rightly or wrongly, listen, it might have just got to the stage for me where I am being too critical. I'm not sure. Other people can tell me if I am or not. I accept maybe I am, but I just think that that's not a massive concern for me.
Yeah. And Robert says, give Tav a break. I like him. We both like him as well, Robert. We're just looking at the future.
Like him or not. He's a lovely guy. Really like speaking to him and things like that. But there's a difference between liking somebody and wanting Rangers to succeed and win, which is ultimately what we want. And I'm not wanting to see the same thing repeat year in, year out.
Yeah, Colin Cooper suggests Dessers for pen. So there you go. He's back.
I'd be quite happy to see Cyril Dessers taking penalties for somebody else, Derek.
Yeah. Right, we'll do it. We'll wrap up there. Andy Davey gets in touch, says, always a great show when Stevie's on. So thank you for your kind words, Andy. I don't know how much you've paid him, Stevie, for commenting.
I get used to saying I'm here for the next week. Me and Chris on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
You won't be saying that next week.
A riot, honest to God. So that's going to be so much fun. So tune in for that. It'll just be us speculating about signings and all sorts of nonsense. So can Chris even host? Has he done it yet?
It'll be his debut on Monday. So,
mate, me and Chris
on him.
Honestly, Chris and me obviously go back years and years with our own podcast and all that kind of stuff. So this will be. Do you know that wee gif where it's just the two boys going, "Look at us," posting each other? That'll be me and Chris.
Absolutely superb stuff. So you've got that to look forward to next week, folks. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Stevie as ever. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'll be on with Chris tomorrow morning. We hope you can join us for then. If there's any transfer news breaking, then keep your eyes peeled on the social media accounts, YouTube, and also on the website as well. We'll keep you updated with all the latest goings on. Until tomorrow, bye for now.